This video is about close reading. So it's the most important skill in AP English. I think a lot of what students may struggle with in this class is the discipline, you could call it, of using lots of textual evidence and at the same time making your own views strongly heard. So close reading is really the key to this. So what is it? Well, before we can answer that question, we should probably look at what this course is asking us to get good at. So in this unit of AP English Literature, Unit 3, in which we talk about a long work of literature, a novel or a play, there are two close reading standards. There are more in the class, and we'll look at those later, but there are two. So first of all, identify and describe what specific textual details reveal about a character, that character's perspective, and that character's motives. And second of all, identify and describe specific textual details that convey or reveal a setting. So you may already have noticed that both of these standards start off the same way. And when we look at the standards for the whole course, I think you will see pretty quickly that most of the standards start out with either that particularly set of words, identify and describe, or explain the function of. And I don't know if you can see this as well as I can. Let me try to make it a little bit bigger. But there are a whole list of standards that either start with identify and describe or explain the function of. So why have I made some of them yellow? And why have I made this one red? So the yellow ones not only start out with that specific instruction, but they direct you to talk about specific textual details. So they may have those words or not. So clearly the first one is very obvious. Identify and describe what specific textual details reveal about. It doesn't really matter what, they're going to give you various instructions. And then this one is describe how textual details reveal nuances and complexities in relationships. And this one is asking you how textual, we saw this one already, how textual details convey or reveal a setting. I hope you're seeing the pattern here. We get to the explain the function of ones, explain the function of a significant event or related set of significant events, identify and describe details, diction, or syntax that reveal, so on, explain the function of, and then now we get into specific words and phrases, similes, metaphors, and so on and so forth. There's a red one here, and I could have made more red, but what I did this for is some of these standards don't direct you to specific textual details. What AP literature is asking you to be good at is going back and forth between the specific and the general, between making a larger observation and discussing the evidence for that in exquisite detail, making commentary on it that pulls out new information from the textual details at the same time as you never lose sight of your bigger argument. So you're going back and forth between the specific and the general. So if you look at the standards highlighted in yellow, you'll see that this course is about close reading. So what is close reading? Well, you're getting a sense of it already, but let's understand what it isn't. So one thing it isn't is it's not the same as being a good reader. Being a good reader is a process or a set of habits. It's the things that you do while you read. And this is one list, a list I happen to like, but there could be others. It doesn't include the word imagination or draw pictures in your mind. I would say good readers do that. But you read rapidly and accurately, you set goals, you identify the text structure, how is this text organized? You monitor yourself for understanding, you create mental notes and summaries, you ask what's next, you predict, and then you edit your thoughts. If you are aware that you thought something about a character, but later you change that, you're aware that you're making that change. And you ask yourself constantly, am I on the right track here? So that's not close reading. A close reading is something you make. It is not just something you do over and over as you read. So if we go back to the course standards, we'll see that they are talking about a writing task, which measures your reading or in which you use your reading skill. So identify and describe is the writing task. What specific textual details reveal about a character, that's the reading task. And so it's a writing task through which you clarify your reading. So there's a part of this that acknowledges the fact that until you write, you don't really know what you think about what you read. And there's part of it that's based on the notion that you have some understanding, you need to put it in paper so other people can have access to it, or at least you need to express it. So again, a close reading is something you say or write about a text. It is a thing you make. It is not just a process you go through while you are reading. It's not entirely unrelated to being a good reader, but being a good reader is not a close reading. So technically, we should be asking, what is a close reading, not just what is close reading. So I went to the Harvard College Writing Center's website, and I found a whole page on close reading, not surprisingly. And what they say is this: most essays, especially academic essays, begin with a close reading of some kind of text, a painting, a movie, an event, and usually with that of a written text. When you close read, you observe facts and details about the text. Making these observations constitutes the first step in the process of close reading. So there's more to it than this because this is only the first step, but the essence of close reading is you start with observing facts and details about the text, and you never completely leave that behind. So let's use Oedipus the King and what we were talking about in class the other day as an example. So a close reading always starts with a question or purpose. That's on the Harvard site too. I just didn't put that part up there. And in this case, we have a question, or rather a purpose, in the first standard for this unit of the course. So it is, to recap, identify and describe what specific textual details reveal about a character, that character's perspective, and that character's motive. So we're going to try to do all of those. Now, first thing here is that our first task is to look for these specific textual details, but to look for the ones that do the revealing. Okay, sorry about leaving off there are a few typos in this. So we're not looking for any old textual details. We have to be attuned to the ones that are important. And the question that I've raised in our class, is he a good king, is going to help guide me in choosing the evidence that I want to use. So I took the first 4 lines of the play. So this is where Oedipus walks on stage and nothing has come before this. My children, he says, generations of the living in the line of Cadmus, nursed at his ancient hearth, why have you strewn yourselves before these altars in supplication with your boughs and garlands? So immediately, I was struck by my children. Now I'm going to notice more than that as I get into it, but I'm really struck by this way he has of addressing his political subjects as his children. That's an incredibly close relationship. So here, side by side, I've placed the prologue, the same lines I had on the previous slide, and my annotations. So the annotations are really important. They are my thinking process written down, and they include 2 parts. My annotations include the quotes, the specific words, the textual evidence, and my commentary on it. So my children shows affection. Now my children is in there, I just took those words out, but the word affection is not there. That is my commentary or my interpretation. Why did I choose those? What does that show about Oedipus' character? Second, you'll notice that I'm going through the 3 parts of the standard as we go. Second, generations in the line of Cadmus shows knowledge of the city. So this is showing us something about the character's perspective. And third, why have you strewn yourselves, and so on, shows real concern, wanting to hear from his subjects, and so that's his motive. So we're going to put these facts and observations about the text together. Now, they're already sort of together because I'm focused on, is he a good king? But we haven't really put it together into a statement that meets the standards in this course. So here's the standard again. Here are my annotations again. And here's my question. What do these specific textual details reveal? That's the task we were given about Oedipus' character, perspective, and motives. So here's my paragraph. The first glimpse we have of Oedipus reveals that he is a good king. He refers affectionately to his subjects as, quote, my children. Moreover, he shows that his perspective is informed by an understanding of the history of Thebes and the ancestors that the people respect when he calls them generations in the line of Cadmos. Finally, he reveals that his motive at this point is genuinely to hear the concerns and voices of the people when he asks, why have you strewn yourselves, and so forth. It shows real concern wanting to hear from his subjects. So you'll see that I left some part at the end not fully edited. Um, and it's not a big problem. So again, I copied my paragraph, complete with the error at the end, unfortunately, onto the left side here. And now let's review. Did I meet all the 3 points in the standard? Yes, I talked about Oedipus' character. Notice I did not use the word character because I thought it would be awkward. I just didn't find a way to fit it in. But it's okay because it's kind of obvious that's what I'm talking about. So the first glimpse we have of Oedipus reveals that he is a good king. He refers affectionately to his subjects as my children. So that's what kind of person he is. I did, however, specifically mention both perspective and motive, since those words were helpful in constructing my paragraph. So moreover, he shows that his perspective is informed by an understanding of the history of Thebes and the ancestors that the people respect when he calls them generations in the line of Cadmos. So again, that's his perspective on the city. And finally, his motive, he reveals that his motive at this point is genuinely to hear the concerns and voices of the people when he asks, why have you strewn yourself, and so forth, shows real concern, wanting to hear from his subjects. Now, the other thing that this does is that this paragraph automatically, if you meet the reading standards, you will automatically meet the writing standards, even though they're articulated separately in the AP course standards. So I'm going to reduce the size of this document for a second so you can see that. But there are 7 major standards and they each have subparts. And the 7th standard is just writing. The other 6 are reading standards. So the 7th standard has 5 parts. And even though I left a little messiness at the end of my paragraph, I pretty much met all 5. So the overall standard for writing is develop textually substantiated arguments about interpretations of part or all of a text. I have done that. The first substandard is develop a paragraph, done that includes 1, a claim that requires defense with evidence from the text, did that, and 2, the evidence itself, 3 pieces of evidence, okay? So my claim was he is a good king, and then I gave 3 pieces of evidence. The second thing is develop a thesis statement that conveys a defensible claim about an interpretation of literature that may establish a line of reasoning. It's very similar to the first, but establish a line of reasoning means that I had a big idea there. And it's possible that I'm going to talk about I could spend the whole play talking about is Oedipus a good king? And then C, develop commentary that establishes and explains relationships among textual evidence, the line of reasoning, and the thesis. So when I say develop commentary, I'm talking about those words like affectionate. I have not just quoted from the text, and I have not just summarized it or made statements, general statements. I've very clearly shown how the words that I chose establish what I am saying about the text as a whole, and then select and use relevant and sufficient evidence and so forth. Of course I did that. And then the last one, demonstrate control over the elements of composition. Yeah, there's a typo, but it's because I didn't clean up my typing at the end. And there's no question, you're not supposed to be perfect, especially in a timed essay as the AP exam is, but you are supposed to very clearly communicate, and any errors you make should not interfere with that clear communication. So that's all I have to say about this. I look forward to reading your close readings, and I hope that this video has been helpful, as always.